I'm going to give a demonstration of the functionality, the various features of this Bell & Howell Eyemo 35mm motion picture camera. This is an item that was made for the U.S. Army during World War II. This camera has been called the camera that filmed World War II. It was very popular along with its smaller brother, the 16mm Filmo camera. It was very popular among troops, the Signal Corps, for making motion pictures. Extremely sturdy camera, very well made, very simple, not a lot of features on it. No stop motion, fades, dissolves, really aren't a strong point of this camera. Its strong point is its reliability. It takes excellent pictures. It's a very well made, very basic, but very functional movie camera. Show you some of the features of it. This is the operating lever here. Right now the spring is fully wound down, so when I press it, nothing happens. It's got a safety here, so when this safety is engaged, you can't use the operating lever. This is where you insert a crank to wind the mainspring. This little aperture here is for a couple of things. You can use a small crank like this. If the spring is fully unwound, you can move the operating lever on auto run, which is basically pulling it up, and you can manually take movies, just like the old silent movies. It can also be used for dissolves, but it's cumbersome. When you wind it backwards, it does wind the spring, so you have to be careful to not play with that if you don't know what you're doing. Okay, let's wind the camera up. We're going to go ahead and put the operating lever in normal mode. This crank is not original Bell & Howell. It actually probably came from an Edison phonograph machine. I ground down the edge. Works perfectly. It's almost exactly like a Bell & Howell crank, but let's crank it a few turns. Very strong spring. All right, cool. Just do it a couple of turns. Let's turn the camera around and take the door off to show the insides of the camera. You've got the feed spool that goes here. Let's put a feed spool in, and let's take the pressure plate and move that backwards. The film is going to go through the upper feed sprocket. If I can get it in there. Okay. According to the book, you're supposed to have 9 sprocket holes on the upper feed side and 11 on the bottom. I'm going to kind of eyeball it and hope that I get it right. Okay, I do have the film. Looks like it's in the gate pretty well. We're going to close the pressure plate and we're going to run a little bit of film. Cool. Looks like it's running good. Get our take-up spool. Our take-up spool. This is my take-up spool, all right? But hey, if you find it on eBay and decide to buy it, then it'll be your take-up spool. Oh, it looks like it's running very well. Let's put the cover back on. Okay, we'll turn it around here. I'll show you all these features in a bit. First of all, let's look at some of the dials. This is the governor speed dial. This is what you turn to have the camera operate at anywhere from 8 to 48 frames a second. Standard sound speed is 24 frames a second. There's a little notch there at the 24 and kind of close to the 32. That's your standard sound film speed. You can use this right here, the screw, tighten that down, and it will hold the governor speed dial in place. I don't have it set. So you know what we're going to do? Let's go ahead and change this film speed. Very slow right now. We're going to increase it. You can hear the motor spinning faster. We're now at 24 frames a second. This is the footage dial. This is just an indicator. It's got a little ratchet mechanism. You can set it to 0 when you put the 100-foot spool in, and you'll notice that it starts to turn while you're taking movies. Cool, we described the operating lever. This circular portion here is where the spring driving belt will go. I'll show you that. The camera does come with a magazine. I'll show you how that attaches in a bit. This camera comes with 2 lenses. This is a 25mm or 1-inch lens, and I'll pull it out. Okay. It uses an Eyemo mount, so you have to line it up with a little tab that's inside the aperture. Okay, and then you can tighten it with this screw here. That cinches it in place. This is the 1-inch lens, and this works very well. This is the diaphragm control here. I don't know if you can see on the movie, but it's moving smoothly. Here's your focus control right here. Causes the lens to move forward and backwards. Filters. There's no internal slot on this camera for a filter. However, both lenses that come with this camera have a lens hood. Okay, serves 2 purposes. Actually 3 purposes. It serves to block side light from getting in and causing flare when you're taking movies. This is threaded here so that you could put a screw-in filter, but also this camera comes with filters for both the 1-inch and the 6-inch lenses, and this is how you put a filter in. I've got this packet of filters here. Filter simply slips in there, and the lens hood screws in. You now have a filter in place. Turning to this side, this is the viewfinder. Typical with many Bell & Howell Eyemos and Filmos, this has a turret viewfinder lens cluster. This one comes with a 1-inch, a 2-inch, and a 6-inch viewfinder lens. So if you have the 1-inch lens in place, then you turn the turret to match up with the little 1-inch viewfinder lens. To compensate for parallax, the eyepiece of the viewfinder has this little eccentric knob that causes the viewfinder to move in or out. It has the setting, this is at infinity, so it's pretty much pointing straight out. If I move it to its closest point, which is about 3 to 6 feet, then it moves in to compensate for parallax. All right, I've shown you how the camera operates using the 100-foot spools. I've taken them out, and what we're going to do now is install the magazine. The magazine, just show you a reference for the size of the reel. I don't know whether it's 1,000-foot, 400-foot, or what, but the spools generally are about 7 inches in diameter, so you decide. I don't know how much film goes in there. First thing you do in order to install the magazine is to unscrew the magazine door. All right, that exposes the area where you can put the loop of film in. Before we get to that, you know what? I probably should show you the various methods. We showed the methods of winding the film using a manual crank that comes with the camera. It also has this little kind of ratchet wrench deal. I don't know whether somebody Frankensteined something or whether this was a tool that was adapted to go with the camera. Bottom line is it works great. Same principle. You wind it counterclockwise, okay, and wind the film up that way. Let's go ahead and release all the tension on the spring. And then what we're going to do is we're going to install the motor. Because really, you don't use the magazine with the spring. We're going to go ahead and install the motor that comes with the camera. This is it here. It's a Bell & Howell Eyemo, 115 volts AC or DC, 1.1 amps, about 8 inch-pounds of torque. It operates at 8 to 48 frames per second. Intermittent duty minutes 15. It is a 14-to-1 reduction gear, and this says it's part 07031. Here are a couple of shafts on it. This is the mounting shaft that goes in here. This is the coupling shaft that mates with a lug inside the camera mechanism. Let's install it. Try it this way. I think that'll show it well. Now, if we luck out, it'll slide all the way in. But I'm kind of glad it didn't. The motor's not going all the way in. So what we're going to do is use the inching wheel on the back of the motor to try to line up the slots on the coupling shaft with the lug that's inside the camera. And when we get it right, it will slide all the way in. We can see now that the motor is, shaft is all the way in. We're going to tighten it up and install some electricity. The camera comes with a power cord. This is not the original power cord that was made for this camera. I adapted another socket, a connector, so there's no locking clip. However, it is keyed, so you're not going to make any mistakes in putting it in. It only goes in one way. Press it in very good and tight. We released the pressure on the mainspring. We're going to put the operating lever up in auto run. So now the clutch is released, the spring is disengaged, and the camera will run off of the electric motor. Start it up. Okay, we'll turn it around. Show you how that looks. Spins like a top. Cool. Now that we've done that, let's go ahead and put the magazine in. I've already put some film in. This is already exposed and developed film, and put a little loop in here. One thing about these magazines, they have what are called light valves, which are basically just some velvet pressure pads that prevent any light from getting into the magazine. The magazines are loaded in total darkness, and so when we have, and let me show you how, there's the lower core and there's the feed core. Let's cover that up. Okay, where's the other one? Over here. Cover it up just for neatness sake. I don't want the film spinning all over the place. Now when the magazine is attached to the camera, it mates with the light valve opening shaft. That will engage when the door is put on the camera. So in the meantime, let's go ahead and we're going to try to put the film in through here. Thank God the film is very forgiving. All right, got it in. Now we can install the magazine. Screws in like that. Nice and tight. Let's thread it. Okay. It's going to go like that, like we did before. Threading is basically the same. They recommend, and I don't remember which it is, the camera comes with instructions, but they recommend a different number of sprocket holes. I'm going to have to I'm glad I did this because I would have ended up with a mess. Okay, that goes like that. I should have taped it, but I think we'll get away with something here. Good, I think we're fairly secure. I think we're fairly secure like that. I'll tell you what, the reason that I'm having trouble is because I haven't attached the drive spring yet. Let's go ahead and do that. Here's the drive spring that comes with the camera. It simply slides in the upper hole here, comes out the lower hole. Pull that out and attach the spring to itself. Great. And run it on that. Now I think we're good to go. Let me go ahead and load this. Alrighty, I put the drive spring on the magazine. I put the door on, and I've got the film securely attached to the take-up core. Now let's run a few feet of film. It's working great. Put the cover on. Okay, I'll just loosely attach that. And there you have it. We'll run some more film through the camera. Excellent, quiet operation. Let me remove the 1-inch lens and install the 6-inch lens. Okay, I think I've got that in the right place. Great. Ooh, look at that. That's an impressive looking camera. The 6-inch lens is in very good shape. Diaphragm control. Focusing. Very smooth. I'll tighten it down a bit. Okay, that lens isn't going anywhere. So there's your focusing. Diaphragm control. Ready to shoot movies.